It's Blissen Up. I'm your host, Rachel Lang, intuitive astrologer. Get starstruck with inspiring guests and engaging conversations. Blissen Up starts now. Hello and welcome. You are watching and listening to Blissen Up. I'm your host, Rachel Lang, and I have with me in studio, as always, the talented, phenomenal, amazing, and magical John Williams.
Oh, thank you, honey.
Hey,
good to
John.
see you.
It's good to see you too.
So glad you're back.
I know.
I want to hear all the details.
Well, as many of you know, I just spent 2 weeks in Bali at an experiential astrology workshop with Rick Levine, who was my guest in January.
Mm-hmm.
So go back and check out that episode, and you can have a flavor of Rick's wisdom and knowledge and astrological perspective. And it was absolutely incredible connecting with people and being in such a sacred land.
Oh, I bet.
It was really incredible.
That's awesome.
And it's great to be back. And it's especially great to be back because today is a very special show. Today, 1 year ago, we held our very first episode of Blissen Up. And so today is our 1 year anniversary. Yay! Yay!
It feels like it's been longer than a year.
I know. Well,
doesn't it?
Yeah. It has.
Yeah.
And we've, this year I was reflecting on this because Mercury is retrograde, which is a time when we reflect backwards. It's a time. John's laughing. He's like, "Oh yes, it's retrograde."
Oh yes,
He's been feeling this one.
Yeah.
But it's a time, when Mercury stations retrograde. It's a 3-week period. It happens 3 or 4 times a year where Mercury appears to be moving backwards in the heavens, and Mercury is the planet of communication. It's also the planet that relates to our communication devices,
technology,
yeah. And cars and transportation and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that gets us from point A to point B is Mercury, the messenger.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the trickster, and so a lot of times under a Mercury retrograde, you might experience things that are just a little bit off, but it's a way to get you back into your center and get back into your heart, and that's really the purpose, to find out how you can enhance your own understanding, your own knowledge, and really move forward, in a dynamic way.
Mm-hmm.
once the Mercury station is direct, which it's going to on October 9th. So today's show is going to be completely and totally different, and because it's our solar return show, it's a very special episode. Our show is also a Libra show, which means and I was going back and looking through some of our episodes, and so many of our themes of our shows have been about love.
Yeah,
it's been completely subconscious. It's not anything that I've planned out, but I was revisiting clips and I put together a little video for everybody, and I noticed that so many of our shows, love was a predominant theme, and Libra is the sign of partnership. It's the sign of understanding. It's the sign of relating. It's ruled by Venus, the planet of harmony and balance and beauty. And so Venus invites us to experience love by way of attraction, by way of beauty. And we're invited to move into that which compels our senses, that which opens us up. And Venus rules the heart, rules the heart chakra. And so our show, as we enter this next year, is really my intention is that it helps you all connect to your hearts and helps you all to experience bliss from that inside, from that space deep inside your heart, and that we can create more magic and more bliss together in this next year.
Yeah. That's the magic chime.
Yes. There's your magic wand.
Yes.
So today's episode is going to be very, very exciting. How many times do I need to say that? But,
no.
In September, my guest, Claire Candy Hough, who is the author of One True Home, Behind the Veil of Forgetfulness, she and I began a conversation about twin flames and soulmate connections. Mm-hmm. And during that episode, people were so excited. Everyone wanted to know more more. And so we decided at that show in September, and I encourage you to go back and revisit it, because there were so many nuggets of rich wisdom in that episode that she shared, and that we brought up, and that some of our questions even kind of brought out. And so I really encourage you to go back and watch that video, or listen to the podcast. And so we started that conversation, and in that episode we said, our anniversary show should be all about twin flames, all about soulmate connections, because we're in a time right now, astrologically, where we are all connecting in new ways and really evolving significantly. And so because of that, we have the ability to connect with one another in very creative, very juicy sort of ways that foster intimacy and foster a sense of connection from the heart. And we're doing that in ways that we're leaving behind so many of the constructs, so many of the ideas that we had about who we were supposed to love and what we were supposed to do. And so because of that, we're entering a new paradigm. And so many of you listening might be experiencing shifts in your relationships, or you might be wanting to connect with someone on that deep level, on that deep spiritual level, on that very palpable soul-like connection. And so there are different types of relationships. There are different types of ways of connecting. And in that episode in September, we talked about twin flames, twin souls, soulmate connections. And what are the differences between those? So are these relationships meant to last? Do they present challenges? Are they here to foster growth? How can you know for sure if you've met the one? What are the telltale signs? So these are some of the questions that arose in our conversation. And so today I've invited Claire Candy Hough and her husband Pete, two twin flames, and when you see their connection, you will completely you'll get it. You'll be like, oh yeah, totally. And then another couple that I know that's definitely what I've labeled them twin souls, twin flames rather. And it's another couple, Robin Keyser and David Yepiz, who were here on my second show talking about their relationship. And so I've invited both of these couples in because we're going to talk about twin flame relationships. We're going to talk about the difference between twin flames, soulmates, and really talk about love. Today's show is all about love, all about that deep spiritual connection with another person. So, Claire Candy shared with us part of her journey in that episode in September to meeting her twin flame. And so she and Pete will share their story, and Robin and David will share their stories. And so we're gonna have an episode, all focused on that.
Great.
Yeah. The one thing that both relationships have in common is that they have just this incredible creative energy. Both of them, you can feel it.
Be interesting to see their charts as side by side.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is I was looking for comparisons. I actually did. I spent a lot of time with these charts. I'm like, oh, okay, what are the similarities? Yeah. And what I noticed is that the thing that they didn't have all of the typical things that I look for in terms of compatibility, and they had a lot of elements of what we would look at in terms of general compatibility. But what I noticed was that there was tension, there were squares, there were oppositions, there were quincunx, aspects within their composite charts as well as within their synastry. And so what I think happens is I think that we draw in people who represent some aspect of polarity within ourselves
to help us grow, right?
Yeah, and it's almost like the two meet and they create and the two opposite, or not the oppositions, but the areas of tension are the areas that offer the most creative possibility, the most creative potential. So their charts did have some. They're very interesting, they're very alive. When you put the charts on top of each other, it's like, whoa. It's incredible. So we'll talk a little bit about the astrology also of twin flame and soulmate relationships. And if you want if you have any questions, if anything comes up, if you want to know more about your chart, please feel free to contact us in the chat room. So we're going to bring them in just a few minutes, but first, since it is our anniversary, I wanted to give you a little view of a vision of where we've been over this year. So I've selected just a few special clips, and I've put them together in one video. So I'm going to share that with you, and when we come back, we'll have our twin flames.
Great.
It's Blissen Up. I'm your host, Rachel Lang, intuitive astrologer. Let's get starstruck.
Because what happens is the tendency is everyone just writes a list of this is who I am. These are my qualities. This is what I'm looking for. And it becomes like you're placing an order like one man, please, 6'2" and tall, dark, and handsome.
Right.
How about what motivates us is love, the love for something. Mm-hmm. So it's not like the fear that we're not going to have the right food to eat if it's all GMO, but it's the love of good food.
Is rather than, run right out to try and find love, it reminded me to go within to seek and release all the barriers I had built against love.
So if you're feeling this charge, like the energy, like the passion, the excitement, and the something's got to shift, something's got to move, something's got to change, then you're not alone. We're all feeling it. John's nodding his head.
In fact, her chart is, I would say, just amazing, and it's a total superstar chart. If you were going to outline or have a baby, the parents of Taylor Swift had their baby on just the right minute of the universe.
I mean, we're coming off of a very intense astrological time, really powerful. So everyone listening, just take a moment and take a deep breath.
There's a very basic element to Mars, which is what turns us on, what leads us to really find somebody attractive or not, because there can be lots of compatibility in the chart, but if there isn't that attraction, then it's not going to manifest in a relationship.
Exactly.
Then in that question, if you sit in it long enough, you'll enter into your heart. Because again, the heart's the digestion center for feelings. So if you're sitting in your heart, you will be feeling.
It usually would take someone 7 dates to find out all that. And sometimes getting all that news too fast.
A little too much. It takes away the mystery, the romance.
Yes!
The spark of,
Jupiter
discovery.
Wants you to be generous and kind and don't...
And Venus wants you to relate.
Yes!
Venus and Neptune wants it to be magic.
These two twins to come together, they're the perfect vibrational match to bring forth their mission on the earth plane.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So that you can make the most of each day.
You never know. When there's a big shift that you're wanting, it shows up.
Right.
And that's what happened.
Right. It always does. The universe is really generous that way.
Yeah.
Even if you're not ready or if you're dragging your heels.
It's like I like to explain Saturn as like it's glue or concrete, and it pours foundations into our life. And from those foundations that slowly but surely harden, we can, build sort of like a new life.
Who doesn't love a Cancerian?
Of being and open to love, to connection, and forward motion in your life. It's time for your own personal revolution.
In a body, I am in a body, but at a more truer, more fundamental level, there's no place where your spirit stops and mine starts. So that if I shift my thinking to the realization that at the deepest level we are one, the intimacy in that is something I recognize by extending my perception beyond my physical senses. It's not something I have to create. It's something I realize.
Facts motivate us to a certain extent, and statistics are nice, but the thing that really motivates us in our lives are stories.
Right.
And the way we are telling our story is very important to what our life looks like.
I love this vision.
If in fact the hypothesis is that there is only love, it's either a call for love when you're with somebody or love.
Love it. George W. Bush was a Cancer. They loved him. There were people that didn't like him. But, since he now is a brother from another mother with Bill Clinton, we're all good with him.
An intelligent spirit may or may not know they're deceased. It depends. There's all kinds of different scenarios, which is what I love about paranormal, because there's never just an ABC situation. Right. It's always different. But
I don't have a bigger cheerleader than David. I think he doesn't have a bigger cheerleader than me. And so that's the way we steer this boat.
Yes. And the most magical thing about astrology is no one has your chart. Not back in Cleopatra's time, not in 3056. No one's going to ever have your personal child, not even your twin brother or sister.
Right.
Because every little mathematical moment counts.
Definitely.
Which is, it shows you that you must speak your vision for your generation, what you feel in your heart, and don't do with your life what other people tell you to do. If you don't want to go to medical school and you want to become a writer or whatever it is, you have to follow your heart, because you are unique in this universe.
All right.
Yay, we're back.
All right, welcome back. You are listening to Blissen Up, and I am in the studio today. We have all four of our twin flames, or I guess I should say 2 pairs of twin flames with us. We have Candy, Pete, Robin, and David.
Yay!
Big crowd.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. Thank you. So I wanted to kind of talk about, I think so many people have questions about how do you attract your twin flame? And in our interview in September, Candy, you mentioned that twin flame relationships are very special, and that you have to kind of prepare yourself to meet your
Right.
special person. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, you don't find your twin flame by searching for them. So many people search for love outside of themselves. You find your twin flame by being that, by, in particular, from clearing and cleansing all your karma, any negativity. If you're reactive in any way, if you get triggered in any way, this usually is a sign that you still have work to do. Once you have cleared and cleansed yourself, once you have cleared your karma, and then you're on that line of connection, as I call it, or that divine connection all the time, then you become that beacon of light to then attract your twin flame very easily to yourself. But it's not something that you have to search for. And the more you search for it, the more you're going to create restrictions around love by trying to fill yourself up with love rather than being love.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because Robin and David in our interview, almost a year ago, you talked about the process when you two first met. And in some ways, it's almost like, and I remember in that episode, because I went back and watched it to edit the piece together. In the episode, you talked about how you met at a conference, and that you neither one of you were really going to go, and everything just sort of clicked into place for that to happen. Can you talk a little bit about that process for you? Like, how were you ready to meet each other? Did you feel some sort of sparkle? Like, I need to go to this thing. There's something that's going to change in my life?
Yeah. You want to go?
Oh, I guess so. I will. For me, definitely. I had been through a long process right before that time of finding myself, as Candy said. And I remember right before I walked into the room where I met him that I really had a moment where I had a real understanding that I felt good about me, that I had come back to me. And but before that, I was in Nashville. He lived in California, and I was led like little breadcrumbs toward being at this conference in San Diego. I had no plans for it, but it was just something that I knew that I had to do, and I didn't. There were lots of things that happened there, but I didn't expect that it would be that I would meet him. I wasn't looking for it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there was a lot of. Being in a place, we were just talking about this in the green room, the four of us, about it, and we were talking about this exact thing. And we all had kind of a story about, opening up enough space by getting connected to yourself first. And then it makes sense that you're attracting the person that would fit with this new person and not continuing down this path of, I just had a lot of things to peel away, in relationships. And it was, maybe not living the life that I wanted to lead. And so when I got back in tune with myself, this was like the first step. It was like a conference to reinvent yourself through business. But when you get connected with something that connects with your soul, it opens that up for connecting with someone like I did with Robin. So it's been yeah, it was the first step. It continues to be, this onion you peel to really get closer to yourself, I think. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Twin Flame's a big title to hang on us right now, but it's
do you feel like it fits though? I mean, do you feel
it's interesting. I mean, it almost sounds like an ego thing, like, oh, I'm a twin flame, but I wouldn't go out and say that in public, but I'm better with her. I know that, the things that I dreamt about doing for myself showed up when she showed up. And obviously that wasn't a coincidence. So yeah, I could see, my flame's brighter, with her.
And it's interesting what you said earlier about the charts and the overlay and the tensions. And I do believe that, I think that there are a lot of people that you meet in your life that you could say are your soulmate. But when you meet someone that stands still long enough for the two of you to do the work that I think that you came here to do together, that's the difference. That you've met your person then.
Yeah, that's one of the characteristics of twin flames, that the relationship is actually a triad with God at the top, because you come back with a mission for humanity, and you marry the gifts and talents of one twin with the gifts and talents of the other twin, and then it's the melding of that, the sum of the parts becomes greater than the whole, as they bring this is oneness in your gifts and talents together as your mission. And you know this, your flame is brighter, that you're more creative or you're more passionate because of that other complement. I call it your divine complement, the one in any space, time, and dimension that brings out the best in you. And it doesn't a lot of people get thrown off because they think the word twin means you have to be exactly alike, and it's not the case, because Pete is a Taurian. He is very methodical. He is very organized.
With a Virgo moon.
He is he's implacable. You cannot push him into anything. And I'm an airhead. I'm an air sign, and so I'm very refractive and very quick and very reflective and all of this. And yet it's a complement to us both. You don't have to be exactly the same, but it complements you in a way that again, the contrast brings out something, even more extraordinary inside of you.
I have a question for you guys. We were talking about this compatibility, and then Robin was talking about, these moments. I guess it's in opposition to each other. And we always talk about, in our relationship, and I want to ask if you guys have this, we always talk about having these big red buttons on our foreheads that we both push. Robin has tended to, just want to leave in a relationship, just like, boom, she's out, I'm out, let me create something. And I was adopted, and I've got this need to like hang on really tightly. And so when she does that, it's almost like those two things come out a lot, in our relationship as do you guys have red buttons like that, where you guys learned?
I wouldn't so much say that they're red buttons, but one thing that I noticed that we contrast the most when comparing each other is the part that we need the most complementary area. It's like what Rachel mentioned at the top of the show when you said you were comparing the two charts, and there were some polar opposites, but it's not necessarily there to create a conflict. It's there to combine to create a whole, so that we're much better as a couple than we are on our own. And because, like Candy mentioned, I'm a Taurus, and I'm very slow and methodical, and I take my time to consider things and ponder, and should I do this, I'll sit with it for a bit. Candy, she will jump into decisions very quickly, and sometimes I believe too quickly, which has been evidenced a few times where the following day or the following week I was thinking, told you didn't check this out, you didn't look at this, you didn't do the research. So I think that we help each other, because Candy prevents me from becoming stagnant and stale and sitting in my big bull ass and not moving and being stuck. And I might just help Candy to say, well, look, don't jump into that so quickly, don't make a commitment just yet, check it out first. And so that's where we complement each other. So it's not a source of tension, but it can be a bit of frustration if I think, no, hang on, Candy, did you? Well, I told you, you know. And she'll be sitting there waiting for Pete, when are you going to make a decision? What are you going to do? Or she says, what are you doing in there, knitting a sweater or something? You know. And I'm pondering things and getting a feel for, is this the right way to go or not? So
how do you, I think one of the challenges that people have in relationships is that when and I've had this in my own relationships, when you encounter those kinds of frustrations, you know, how do you go from closing off and judging to recognizing it as a gift?
You know, I think that what was important for me is recognizing that there are so many more benefits. If that's the worst thing in our relationship, big deal, really. If that's really all it is, you know, because what had helped me is that prior to meeting Candy, I was in a relationship that wasn't working, and it was a big source of tension and frustration, and I was so tense and ill at ease, and I had to consider my words before I said them, because I had to think, how is she going to take them? Is it going to be misconstrued? And so there was a lot of energy, too much energy, putting into me not being myself. How should I be so that it makes it easier for this relationship? And it's a source of a lot of tension, which in retrospect now, I know it was such a blessing, because like Candy says, we learn so much through contrast. And so I know this is so much ease and grace involved in this, because I know what it's like when it's not that way. Yeah. So that previous relationship was a real blessing, and I'm glad I had that, because now I can cherish this and value this, what we have, so much more. And those little frustrations is like, big deal, it's nothing. I've been through worse.
Yeah.
I'll put up with that little frustration any day, you know.
Actually, one of the things that I wrote in the decree that I wrote that said, thank you for my twin flame relationship, this was 6 months before we met, was that, first of all, there was nothing that was more important that took priority over the relationship. That was the most important thing. And the second thing was, I asked for someone who just allowed me to be myself. I allowed to be him. There was no game playing. There was no trying to change the other person. And so there's that ease and that comfort in the relationship that you can be yourself and you don't have to change for the other person.
I think it's interesting that I did exactly the same thing. About 6 months before I met him. It was a list of 100 things, and I couldn't stop at that. It was a list of 110 things, down to what color socks he wore, that I wanted in my life. And he is every single one, and more. And even one of mine was that he would call me baby. I don't know why I wrote that down, but what's so odd is that he calls me that so much that his children call me that. That's their name for me. It's a little bit odd in public. They all call me that, but it's just such a strong thing to sit down and write down every single thing that you want, and then to have it show up.
Right. It reminds me of that scene in Practical Magic. Do you remember that movie, Practical Magic, where she had, as a child, had written like basically a list saying like an impossible list.
Yes.
And I just got goosebumps saying, there's no way this person could manifest. And when they meet, and he has like 2 different color eyes, and his symbol is the star, all these things, and he says, "I was asking for you too." So, do you think in some ways, and kind of, I don't know if we actually have a definite answer about this, but do you think that in some ways the list is based on sort of what we know that our souls have contracted? Is our list sort of a preview in some ways?
I'm not sure, because my list wasn't as long as Robin's. What was most important to me is I didn't put any. That's funny. The only physical thing I put on the list was that he had to have some hair, but I didn't say where. Which is, and he's Italian, so I won't say anymore. But the things that were most important to me is that we worked together, we traveled the world together, we were supportive. Nothing was more important than the relationship. We were the best of friends. He made me laugh. He was affectionate in public. He was loyal and considerate and kind and trustworthy. I mean, it sounded like I was speaking about a dog, but those kind of qualities, because of the abusive marriage that the former soul had been in and the way she was treated, those things, nothing physical really, was more important than those things that I had written down. The respect, the loyal, the kind, the sweet, the gentle, all of those things, and treating me like a princess and making the relationship a priority. Those are the things that were most important to me. There was one thing on my list that did not turn up, and because I had studied Italian intensively for many years, I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could speak Italian with my husband? And so I asked for him to speak Italian. The funny thing is, Pete does not speak Italian, but he is Italian, and he has family in Italy, so we can go visit, and I can speak to them as much as I want. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
You know, I would agree exactly with that. In that, I don't think it's so much that you're writing down things that you know, that may be already out there or that you've connected in some way. For me, it was exactly the same way, in that it was in reaction to every other person that had come before. In that I liked this, I didn't like that. I want this, I don't want that. And that, you know, I think we know from law of attraction that we're always, you know, putting that out, that, you know, and that we're always working that, and that I don't think we value so much the people that come before, really the way that we need to, and that they're there to do the work they do, for you to have the comparison, for you to understand that you don't want that, you want this. And so my list was a little piece of every person that had ever been in my life before.
And I think what's important is that you're defining what you want.
Yes.
Not what someone else's expectation is, what your
Exactly.
peer group might want, what you feel is going to be better for you as far as your image, as far as perceived by someone else in some other group, or what your parents would want, and that sort of thing. I think it may, to a small point, be less about what you put down, but it's the act of choosing something for yourself and not for anybody else. Because you then, like David and I were talking before, about stripping away the outer layers of the onion, you're getting rid of anything that doesn't serve you or honour you anymore. And we learn what doesn't work for us from previous relationships.
Exactly.
You learn what foods you don't like by tasting them, and then you know what you do prefer. And
it sounds Italian now.
And so by identifying those things, I think it brings us back to our true self and helps us to honour what we really want, what's right for us, not anyone else's expectation.
Exactly. The same way.
Absolutely. So I want to just take a moment and I think we have some questions about what is the difference. I think there are so many questions about definitions. Like, you know, when you use the term, you know, twin flame, that seems kind of magical. It seems like it has sort of a magic. And maybe you could explain the difference between soulmate, twin flame, twin souls. What do these definitions mean?
For me, the greatest definition between the twin flame and soulmates, they're both very romantic in nature, but soulmates come into our lives to reflect something back to us that still hasn't been resolved. Many romantic soulmates come in with agitation, irritation, drama, pushing our buttons. And if we don't learn the lesson, John is nodding his head. You know, then we go on and we say, "Oh, I hate you. I'll show you." And if we don't do the work on ourselves and see what's been reflected back to us, then we go and choose somebody that's maybe 10 times worse, 100 times worse, so we can really see the reflection. And once you do understand this, then you don't have to play that soulmate game anymore. Then you can turn the mirror back on yourself, as I say, and look at those issues that cause that friction in the relationship. And then once that's resolved, then you draw a very different person to yourself. Yeah.
And what do you two think about that? About the difference between twin flames and soulmates?
Well, I thought I mean, that is a great explanation, and it's kind of, and you're the expert of that. I heard, and I thought soulmates could even be at this point. I thought, you know, even friendships and you know, people that maybe move you off your current path to something else, and so it could be relationships or whatever. But they move you in some way, so you quit being where you are. And so with a twin flame, I just think of we have a business that Rachel mentions from time to time called the Live Box. And that wasn't even here when we got together.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got together, we formed this business, and it's certainly we're both co-founders in it, but it didn't even exist before we got together. You know, so it's that kind of. I think a twin flame. It's not just the love part, and we have 6 kids between us and all that, and it comes. But this business is a baby unto itself.
Yeah.
It was never here, and so it kind of came from that. So.
Yeah, it's the melding together of the two to form that which is going to be of service to humanity. And I didn't mention before with the soulmates is that the reason soulmates come back, well, the agitation and the irritation certainly is with romantic soulmates. But, you know, my mother's my soulmate, you know, my daughter and, you know, and everyone here is my soulmate. But, you know, they come back often to complete some unfinished business, you know, and also start up something. And there's a completion that needs to be done in this incarnation that was not finished in a previous one.
Exactly, and I think that a lot of times in those soulmate relationships, that the planet. So putting this in astrological terms, the planet Saturn. When I see a lot of heavy Saturn influence, that represents that kind of soulmate relationship where there's a lot of past karma that you're working out together and that you're here to heal. But I think that doesn't mean that it's discounted or that it's any less significant in your life than a twin flame.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, often those soulmate relationships are so powerful and so they have the creative potential, and they can last for years or decades or forever, you know.
So when we talk about reincarnation and twin flames, is it that the twin flame has had a lot of lifetimes with the person in previous lifetimes, so they've been together and then separate, or how does that work in terms of reincarnations?
It's interesting what Rachel had asked me in our last interview. She said, "Does everyone have a twin flame?" And I said, "Yes." And most of the time, because twin flames have been very rare on the planet, is because the twin flame actually, when they stay over the veil, they can actually be of higher service to that person on the earth plane.
Okay.
And so that's why they many lifetimes they don't contract to be together on the earth plane.
Got it.
But everyone has this twin flame, but they don't always incarnate. In my book, which I just released, you know, I talk about my 5 most important incarnations, and Pete was across the veil. He was not with me during those incarnations. Yeah.
Okay.
So having said that, if you talk to others about finding your twin flame, there's no guarantee it will happen, but what you do is, I guess, educate people as to what they can do for themselves to put themselves in the best opportunity or the best position to be able to attract the twin flame to them.
Right.
But even if they do that, there's not a guarantee that there'll be any success if it hasn't been contracted.
If it hasn't been contracted, it's not going to happen. Exactly.
But I think that's a really good point, because you know, in some of the personal work that I've done in my life in the past and present to attract that twin flame relationship, you can connect with that person, you can connect with that twin flame, and it doesn't have to be a physical connection.
Yes.
I mean, that energetically we communicate, we connect with one another, with each other, in all the time. We're always sending frequencies, always sending vibes.
Yes.
And even if you don't connect with your twin flame, by going through the process of improving yourself, you're ahead of the game anyway.
Yeah.
You know, why would you not want to put yourself in a position where you can grow and improve and develop?
Right.
It's because maybe it's the next time around that you'll be able to. Who knows? But it's not about so much about the result. It's about what can I do now to put myself in a better position to be happier and healthier and stress-free and enjoy my life and affect other people around me and to continue to learn as well. I mean, that's a much more wonderful life than carrying around baggage or negativity or anything that is going to be detrimental to your health, any stress, regardless of the twin flame. You know, that's somewhat like the bonus.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of benefit to just looking at yourself and improving and making yourself happy and making the right choices for yourself on what you feel best is right for you.
And then when we cross over, we definitely meet up with the twin flame, right?
Yes, yeah.
So it's like a reunion party.
Exactly what I always say, a reunion or welcome home party, unless if they haven't been in the incarnation with us, of course, they will be there. They will be there to meet us.
Interesting.
When we met at this seminar, and I just told Candy the story, David didn't look anything like, he was not in the package that I expected that I was going to find. It was,
it was much better.
It was much better.
There you go, Pete.
It was much better. But our connection to each other was different than I had ever felt about anybody in my life, honestly. And I honestly felt like that when he moved out of my space, that a part of me had left, like that something was disconnected, that I was not whole anymore. And of course I didn't understand that because it's not really the way I'm wired. But there was a woman at the seminar who did a lot of angel work, and I sat across from her. He walked off and for some reason, and I said, what is this? What is this? And she goes, oh, and I was like, oh yeah, I know. And she said, many lives, and such a connection. And yes, So, but not what I thought. Not what I thought.
Better.
Thanks, Pete. No worries, man.
And David, how was that for you? I mean, did you feel a similar way?
Gosh, that was a long time ago. I guess so. I think I was more oblivious to that. I mean, when I made a decision that I wanted Robin in my life, it was like pretty much like walking through a doorway. It's like, okay, I'm over all this other stuff that didn't serve me, and so it was a little different. I was just getting into this. Like it was, I raised Catholic and all that, and that kind of fell away, and I really didn't know spiritually what I resonated with. I know I liked music and being creative and all these things for myself, and that had kind of gone away in my current relationship at the time. And so that was all displaced, but then I started to rekindle that with Robin, the energy and creativity and all that, and then I could see that, but it wasn't so. I thought your package was great, so.
Isn't it cute? Well, I should have had a clue, but I was completely off. We have a mutual friend who had told me 6 months before, when I was in the middle of a really bad relationship and getting over it, and she said, I can see your person, and he's waiting for you. And I was like, yeah, right. And she goes, he has this dark skin, and I see him, he's got a briefcase, and you're traveling, and it's back and forth, and I was doing a lot of work in Brazil at the time, and I was like, the other thing she said he speaks your language, and I was like, really? And I was like, I'm gonna meet some guy on a plane on my way to Brazil, and he's gonna be like a medical legal person or something, because I'm a nurse. And it was David, and we traveled back and forth for 2 years. And our business, because, he always had to bring his briefcase. It was, because we were working in our business together, and we spoke the same language, in that my business and his business were the two pieces of the business that is now, exactly. And we spoke the same language because he understood what I did. But it was a very different idea of what I thought my person was going to be like. But definitely him. Yeah.
It's great. We have one other, and I'm just going to shift gears for just a second, because we had another couple who sent in they're a twin flame relationship as well, and they sent in their charts. And one thing that I noticed in all three of your charts, that when I look at the composite charts, and so I'm turning this into an turning the astrological lens onto this conversation. When I look at your charts, what I notice is that in the composite charts, Venus, all of them, Venus is very tightly aspecting either Mars or the Sun. Venus plays a very prominent role. Venus is the planet of relating, and a lot of times when we have conflicts, we want to of draw on the Venus energy because it brings balance and partnership. And this other couple that that sent in their charts, Isaac is his name and his partner. There's the Sun and Venus in their composite charts are very closely connected in the 7th house of relationships, and so I just wanted to kind of highlight that as a very significant feature, because I think that's the energy that is required when you run into these oppositions or you run into challenges or tensions, and it helps to stay together. So thank you so much, Isaac, for sending in your information. Now we have just a few minutes left, and the time went so fast. Yeah. I want to give you each a moment to kind of talk about, like, promote anything that you have a book, you have a business, you have a million things going on all at one time. So just take a moment and share how we can get in touch with you, how we can learn more about what you do.
Okay. Well, I have my business, Angel Healing House. I just released my second novel, One True Home Behind the Veil of Forgetfulness. Awakens people to their multidimensional selves and takes them on the journey of remembrance. I'm a Reiki master teacher, angel practitioner. I also have my Angel Healing House radio program,
which is incredible.
Which is every week. I don't have guests, as the Posse of Angels told me 4 years ago. It's only to bring forth channeled information for the first 20-25 minutes where the collective consciousness is, and then to give out free readings. And people can contact me at angelhealinghouse.com. So, love to hear from you.
Great.
I don't really have any projects. I'm into filmmaking, so what I'm doing is writing screenplays, and I'm going through the process of optioning a book at the moment to get the film rights to turn into a feature as well. So nothing really to promote, but if people want to get in contact with me for whatever reason, it's peter.hoff@yahoo.com is my email address.
Great.
Well, this is pretty easy because ours is the same. Separate parts of the same thing. We have the Live Box, and I'm going to speak about the magazine, the Live Box magazine, and you can reach me at robin@thelivebox.com, and we feature Rachel's horoscopes every month.
Yeah, the new ones are just out, so liveboxmagazine.com.
And it's the Live Box magazine.
Yeah,
right?
I'm sorry, it's the Live Box magazine. I knew that.
No, I just wanted to make sure because I have it on the screen. I just wanted to
Yeah. I've got nothing to add. She's got it, except David at thelivebox.com.
And what is the Live Box? If you want to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a it's a lot of things. We don't have that much time, but Live Box is a branding and marketing system for waiting rooms all over the country. And there's film and fashion and music, and then we have doctors promote their wares.
Cool.
And things like Rachel's horoscopes are involved in video form. So
nice.
It's awesome. Still growing and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, definitely. So check it out, the Live Box, and the liveboxmagazine.com, where you can read all about what's happening in October. The newest horoscopes have just been posted. And since we didn't have Starstruck today, I will let you know that the 6th this week is the action-packed day. That's the powerful day of the week. So mark your calendars. Take good care of yourself.
Seems like every day has been for the last month
since the eclipse.
Ever since the eclipse, it's just been crazy. Yeah,
I know. And Mercury Retrograde and Venus Retrograde, all kinds of astrological interesting things happening. So that's our show today. I have two very, very, very special announcements to make before we close out.
We actually have a couple more minutes, so we're going to get a little extension because it's our anniversary show. So let's go ahead and spill the time.
Excellent. Okay, cool. Yeah. Excellent. Wonderful. Well, I'll just make my two announcements.
Okay.
First of all, I will be in Nashville next weekend teaching a workshop with Christina Colby, Psychic Rebel Colby, and we're going to be teaching an introduction to intuition, spirit communication. It's only $99 for the whole day, and it's a very interactive, experiential. So if you have been feeling spirit, if you've been if your intuition's been heightened because the veil is becoming more thin right now, then you need to come and check out this workshop. So that's Saturday the 10th. Then Sunday Sunday, the 11th, that night from 7 to 9 p.m., we will be doing a platform show. So we'll be talking to Spirit live in front of an audience. So if you are in the South, if you're in Nashville area, please come, please join us Saturday and Sunday. Then also, I am participating in an astrology summit. I am one of, I think, 20 speakers who we each have a topic that we're talking about, and so there are 20 hours of astrological information, and I have a free download of a PDF ebook that I wrote. So I will be posting information about that and about how you can participate. And that will be on my Facebook page and on my website as well. Great. So I wanted to make those announcements, and I'm just John just informed us that we have 10 more minutes.
Yeah, 10 more minutes. Yeah.
So that's good. That means I can ask more questions.
You can. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, there were a couple of questions that actually I had that came up as we were all talking. So now that we have a little bit more time. Mm-hmm. Yay. So, I think one of the things is when you meet your twin flame, that doesn't mean that the challenges are over, correct?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. People said, well, then you don't have any challenges. I said, well, no, it's like two trains going on parallel tracks going in the same direction. I said, you'll always have the challenges in your life, but the way I see it is there are never challenges within the relationship. As far as our relationship goes. People said, is it always bliss? And I said, yes, it's always bliss. I said, there are no challenges within this relationship because we allow each other to be ourselves, and we're always working off the same page. It's kind of like with us living with yourself, which can be a bit weird after a while, but there are you have challenges along the ways, but then you have a combined effort to then solve those challenges and go through them with ease and grace. But it's never within the relationship itself. Mm-hmm. That's what we've experienced. Mm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You didn't say anything. Oh no.
Well, I can't disagree. I can. I choose not to.
I can't say that we haven't had challenges. I mean, the train analogy, I like that. That's cool, but our trains bump into each other. We have a lot of dynamics in our relationship. Like the kids, 6 kids together, and 2 from the South, 4 from Laguna Beach. They actually merged together really well. But there's cultural differences in the South, and I'm Latino from LA, it's like. But then at the core value, I think we believe and feel and have the same kind of goals, and the big stuff is there. And I agree with you. It's like I really don't think she's going anywhere, no matter how many times she pushes my red button.
He knows that.
Yeah. But I don't know. Do you feel that way?
I feel a little bit different about it in that I think that there are times, like you say, that that you bring somebody in to reflect back for you, and that sometimes in a soulmate relationship, it's very it can be distressing and heartbreaking and horrible. But I feel like this coming together is a whole thing. Sometimes if you're different, there's something about your pieces coming together. For the ultimate growth, for a step up to something different, almost like a reason for being here, that your life becomes, as you say, a whole other entity. And, I think that sometimes that there's conflicts. For me, especially, I think that I came into this world with that being the biggest conflict for me, relationships. And that the biggest work that I had to do was here and with him. And there's something very special about that. Not so much for him, but for me.
And you guys mentioned, David, you said before that the live box that you have is born from your relationship.
Yes.
And similar to Angel Healing House with ours. And the film work that I want to do is based on the same idea of inspiring others and providing hope and something that's positive instead of negative.
Yes.
So there is a purpose, there is a mission behind us coming together. And so from my point of view, I agree with what Candy said before, but I think that even if there is a small disagreement or tension or whatever, we understand the bigger picture. And so anything else is just so insignificant compared with the mission that we feel that we're on.
Well, and I think that's interesting because that speaks to one of the things that you mentioned in our last interview, which was that a twin flame relationship is a triad. It's you and your twin flame and the divine, and I think that with that triad that there's so much creative potential, and it's interesting just now hearing how that's played out for both of you in your relationships.
And a lot of people have been fed misinformation about twin flames. Yes, it's very romantic, but a lot of the times they don't want to give up. Not really give up. They don't want to open up that part of themselves to bring forth that which has been gifted to them. And a lot of times you have to let go of that egoic part of you in order to open up, to see the bigger picture of why you've been placed here and to be of service to yourself, to that twin flame relationship, and also to humanity as well. So a lot of people don't want to give up that part of themselves. They want to have the romance and all of that, which is beautiful, but they don't want to step into then being a mystic wanderer, as I call it, being led by the divine for the greatest good of yourself and the greatest good of all concerned. So I think that's a big difference.
How do you get to that point where you let go of that ego? I mean, because I think that's part of why we're all here, is to detach from that.
Right. I didn't have a problem with that when I walked in.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, we should probably take a moment and mention, this was in our last interview, but we didn't talk about it today, that Candy is a walk-in. Can you explain what that is?
Well, very briefly, a walk-in happens when a soul on the earth plane wants to exit their contract early. They want to get out of their contract because life is just too difficult for them. Perhaps they've been in emotional pain and suffering, physical or emotional pain, and life just becomes too difficult for them. And a lot of times they have terminal illnesses. They've tried to commit suicide, like the former soul did, and so we on the other side don't want to see anybody suffering, and so we would give them an out, especially since the harmonic convergence of 1987, where a small group of souls on the earth plane said, we're not going to nuke ourselves, we're actually going to start raising the consciousness. And it was so important for each soul to hold as much light. And so I came to the former soul and I asked her, you can give up your body with honors, go across the veil, and if you allow myself to come in and then to be of service to humanity. So this is something that, people can't consciously contract for this to happen. It has to be written into the contract, previously, and it always is activated by that advanced spiritual soul across the veil. So for me, it was, it was a little bit easier because I was a walk-in, but I always say that I followed those 5 principles: taking responsibility for my life, forgiving, having no judgment, being grateful and appreciative for my blessings, and just loving unconditionally. And those are the 5 tenets of Angel Healing House. So once you really hone in on those things, it becomes much easier then to, live in that ease and grace, I guess. So.
I could see how it'd be easier living with an angel than with me.
That's funny.
And you're Gemini? Are you Gemini also?
No,
Libra.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I know, it's interesting. We have 2 air signs and 2 earth signs.
No coincidence.
Gemini, Virgo, Libra, Taurus. Yeah. So they keep you grounded.
They do.
Yes.
Well, since it's our anniversary show, I just wanted to thank you, Rachel, for such an amazing run. This has been incredible. I'm looking forward to our next season, and I just want to thank you for making me feel so special every show and being such a wonderful, loving gift every day in my life. So I really thank you. And your birthday's coming up, so I want to say
John's gonna make me cry.
Happy birthday, sweetheart.
'Cause you're so special in every way.
Happy birthday, sweetie.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's going to be on the 10th, right?
On the 11th.
On the 11th, yeah. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Aww. Thank you, John.
Oh,
and
pleasure.
thank you for being on this journey with me.
Oh, it's been an absolute joy. It really has. And
Wonderful.
you get to meet wonderful guests and hear amazing stories and I just feel so connected when I'm with you. So thank you, honey.
Likewise.
Yes.
Great, wonderful. Oh, well, that's a great note to end on.
Yeah.
I have another really important announcement. Next week, Marianne Williamson is going to be on the show.
Okay.
Yeah, talking about the
Great.
balance between masculine and feminine and how to integrate those in relationships. So it's another relationship show. It's another Libra show. So stay tuned or tune in. Next week, we'll be back Friday, a regular time, regular place at noon. Thank you so much to my guests, angelhealinghouse.com, where you can find Candy and Pete, and the Live Box and the liveboxmagazine.com, where you can find Robin and David. And thank you, John.
Thank you, hon.
And thank you all for being with me this year. And let's enter into our solar return and have another really exciting year.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, and we're going to leave with St. Vincent.
Yeah, your
my favorite Libra musician.